Well, it's a Sunday, and this gives me a chance to take a look at things that I might have missed. Little things that normally won't get full attention because there's so much garbage going on in the world. And this week, I want to look at John Podesta, who has now joined the Biden administration. Yes, the very same John Podesta who was the campaign manager, I believe, for Hillary Clinton in... Wait, no, Robbie Mook was 2016. What was his title? Campaign chairman? Something like that? I kind of get these people confused. They all blend together. But John Podesta, he's an old name, he's an old face. His brother, you may remember, is the guy with all of the creepy, disgusting, satanic paintings on his wall. I mean, imagine walking the halls of your own home, your giant, 20,000 square foot mansion or whatever Tony Podesta lives in. And just seeing blood and gore and debauchery all over your walls. I mean, it's seriously, Google Tony Podesta paintings. They're not the kind of thing that I could even describe on YouTube without getting suspended again. And so that's Sicko's brother, who many people believe is just as sick, but is a little better at keeping it in the closet. And of course, his emails were the origin of Pizzagate, which is something I will not talk about here. In fact, I don't even know if YouTube lets me use that term, but I just did, so I'm not going to edit it out. And I almost didn't talk about Podesta joining the White House, but until I saw what his actual title was, which is something like Senior Advisor on, green energy and climate solutions. And I found this interesting. I thought, oh, gee, John Podesta, the old Clinton flunky, is now a green energy expert. Imagine that. Somebody as powerful, influential, and important as John Podesta has been reduced to a mere green energy advocate. Something doesn't sound right about that to me. Now, I haven't looked into it yet. I don't know if I'll be able to find anything. But methinks that, the obvious... unusual motivations behind this big push for green energy. Like every other political issue, comes right down to money. And that there's a lot of money to be made, and there's a lot of people in positions of power who are currently in a position to profit absurdly off of the mass extinction event known as the green energy revolution. John Podesta's title to me is a signal that the Great Green Grift is something that has now gone all the way up to the highest levels of power in the United States government. The phony green energy industry, likely, though maybe not noticeable yet to most Americans, is on the level of the military-industrial complex in terms of influence and just pure grift. The military-industrial complex is an entire amalgamation of companies and industries that would not exist without the U.S. government's endless campaign of slaughter, death, and destruction that they have reigned across the earth since the end of World War II. And likewise, the green energy industry, without the iron fist of government, without all of these ridiculous pronouncements that have been made by people like Joe Biden and Boris Johnson and Gavin Newsom, the green energy folks would have very little business. They might get some venture capital. They might get some people who want to really do some high-risk investing, putting money into their companies, but they're not going to be able to sell anything because they don't have a product that is marketable. They don't have a product that can compete with fossil fuels at any level. I mean, the best of the green energy industry are these solar panel folks who can sell people who want to live off the grid and who live far away, from civilization. Hey, you can generate electricity on your property. That's pretty much the limited marketability of green energy at this point. Likewise, when you compare it to the military-industrial complex, those folks and their wares would have very few buyers in the world, and they would sell very limited quantities of their wares. Really, without all of America's endless wars over the last few decades, how many fighter jets, how many C-130s would the world need? How many battleships would the world need? How many rounds of ammunition would the world need every year? How many overpriced rifles, pistols, and suits of armor would the world need? The answer is obviously very few to all of those. It is only the constant threat of war, the constant actual war, and the constant wartime footing that the United States and, to a lesser extent, all of its allies around the world are kept on that allows these companies to be able to keep setting new sales records and keep churning out more and more instruments of death. Really, if we were not firing off missiles 24 hours a day, how many missiles do you think would be rolling off the assembly line at Raytheon? That's why the military-industrial complex has been so pernicious and aggressive in its lobbying and domination over the federal government, since the end of World War II. And that also is why the green energy industry, which is heavily backed by Wall Street, will, in time, be seen in the same light. There is no green energy industry without governments mandating that people use inefficient modes of power generation. And the fact that you have a blood-sucking vampire like John Podesta on their payroll is unsurprising. He has no qualms about letting hundreds of millions of people starve to death on this planet, so long as it means that he can make a quick buck. John Podesta's new role at the administration, I think in just a couple of words, not even in words, just by its mere existence, sums up the true nature of the green energy industry. It is parasitic, and it will only be able to sustain itself and grow by sucking the life out of humanity. Let us also not forget that John Podesta sat in for Joe Biden in the Civil War game carried out by the Transition Integrity Project prior to the 2020 election, in which his role in this tabletop RPG as Joe Biden, in that role, John Podesta chose to secede from the United States and form a new neoliberal union. And so John Podesta is somebody who is not unaware of the risks that divisions in this country could lead to revolts and ultimately the breakup of the nation itself. Yet, given his understanding of that risk, he chooses to push forward with this green energy agenda. Or perhaps it is because he supports this green energy agenda that he knows that there is a risk, a significant risk, that people will revolt and resist. And so perhaps in his head, the way he rationalizes it is that, yes, even if we can't take every state in America along with us into the new great green future, we're still going to plunge headlong into this project. And sure, even if we only end up with California, Oregon, and Washington at the end of the day, or in New York, Connecticut, those states, he's still happier with it that way. And honestly, I don't understand that. Because I would think that still, if I were in John Podesta's position, this is someone who has no morals, no principles. He loves no one on this planet. He only craves money and power. He is a godless animal of the highest order. And so in that case, why would he want to do something that would risk destroying this great union, which he enjoys a very, very high position within? Sure, he may not be at the top, at the apex of the U.S. government. He is not, I guess, directly controlling presidents, although he's come pretty darn close. His position with the Clintons, I guess maybe because Hillary didn't win, he's down and out on his luck. But still, I would think that John Podesta holds more influence and power in a united states than a divided states. Maybe the reason why he's having to take on a lower position like this and not, senior, just plain senior advisor on everything, or chief of staff or something more prestigious, is because the Clintons, and therefore the entire Clinton machine, of which he's been a long part of, really has just lost influence within the Democratic Party. Perhaps the entire green energy industry in the United States is to a certain extent a front for Clintonian influence and a new structure with which Clinton allies can be strategically placed, like the Clinton Foundation before it. After all, Al Gore, Bill Clinton's vice president, was at the forefront of the Great Green Grift, not just with his movie, but with his investment firm that he started with Mr. Blood from Goldman Sachs, the investment firm of Blood and Gore, very aptly named for people who are advocating indirectly for the mass starvation of hundreds of millions of people. Blood and Gore have been in on this game since they left the White House in 2000. And they likely have their tentacles all throughout all of these companies, and therefore are poised to benefit, maybe more than anyone else, from the Great Green Grift taking over America. And if so, then it would make sense to see John Podesta there right at the forefront as one of their frontmen. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.